Why is it always the darkest Mexicans and the predominantly indigenous Mexicans, the ones that are most obsessed with being white? They're the ones that you'll see at MAGA rallies or supporting ICE. They're always the first ones to say things like, oh, I'm not Mexican, I'm American. My parents are from Mexico, but I was born in Texas. And then on top of that, they'll say things like, oh, I'm Spanish. My family comes from Spain. I ain't no Mexican. It's always them, bro. You know, people always tell me, Angel, you're a white Mexican. You're a white-sican. You're white passing. Guys, I'm literally 61% indigenous Mexican. I'm only 17% Spanish, thank God. I have way lighter skin than the people I'm talking about, and you'll never hear me say, oh, I'm Spanish. I claim Spain. I'm American. I'm not a Mexican. Never. And here's the thing, look, if you're born in the US, that's fine. You're a US citizen. I understand that. But the thing is, you can always change your nationality. You can never change your blood. And that blood is indigenous Mexican. It's just something that I cannot wrap my head around. But anyways, couldn't be me.
A lot of people don't understand when I say that Mexicans are culturally racist. They think that I'm calling us openly racist. We are culturally racist, and this is how. Part of our culture is to frown upon dark-skinned people. It's been passed down to us by the Spaniards, by our colonizers, by the people that conquered us, taught us that dark skin is inferior, light skin is superior. We were taught that. It was passed down to us, meaning it's part of our culture. We are culturally racist in this aspect. That doesn't mean I go out in the streets and want to hurt black people because they're black.
Right.
It means that our teachings, the way we're raised, is that we are raised to subconsciously believe that dark skin is inferior and light skin is superior. Another element in our Mexican culture is Univision News, Univision channel. That channel is run by white Latinos. The ideologies and subliminal teachings that they teach is very similar to Fox News. White supremacist-ish. They make efforts to depict dark-skinned people as criminals, that whenever they even bother sharing news about dark-skinned people is when they do something wrong. But yet, when they want to mention anything that has to do with light-skinned people, specifically white people, is to depict them as them doing good deeds around the world, feeding the homeless, etc. You get it.
Yeah.
My grandmother was visiting one day from Mexico. She's never lived in the United States. She has no idea what life is out here. She was watching Univision News, where they depicted a black American.
Alright guys, before I go deeper, welcome back to the channel and I hope you are all doing good. Colorism isn't just a global issue. It has deep, painful roots in Latin America, and in Mexico, that legacy is still alive today. From beauty standards to social status, from television to everyday life, a quiet but powerful pressure exists. The pressure to look white. So guys, that is why I decided to bring up this video so that we can dive into a complex conversation within the Mexican community surrounding colorism, identity, and the deep-rooted legacy of colonial influence. Why do some darker-skinned and predominantly indigenous Mexicans feel pressure to distance themselves from their native identity and strive towards whiteness? How did this mentality develop, and why does it still affect social status, media representation, and beauty standards today? So guys, let's get into this video as we explore the history of colonialism and caste systems in Mexico, and also how colorism continues to shape social and economic opportunities. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section regarding the psychological and cultural effects of aspiring to whiteness. And let me get real stories and public and let me know your reactions, and also let's discuss on what's happening on social media about why indigenous identity is both erased and exploited in modern culture. So guys, let's get into this clips. I'll be back with more commentaries. This is not a video about shaming individuals. It is about exposing a system that rewards proximity to whiteness while devaluing indigenous roots. The goal is to spark dialogue and not division. Let's get into the video. Join the conversation in the comments. I'll be back.
Committing a crime. She turned around and said, Oye, estos negros solo estorban, ¿verdad? Hey, these black folks, all they do is get in the way, huh? Here's the interesting part. She's never met a black person in her life. She has no idea what it's like to interact with a black person, but yet she already has an opinion about black people as a whole. Why? Because part of our culture, in this particular case, Univision News, since we were children, we have been subliminally taught the blacks are bad, criminals, etc. And whites are good, decent, giving, saviors, etc. We're taught that. Hearing her express such a hateful remark about a people that I knew for a fact she's never even interacted with. You don't even know a black person. How dare you come here to this country and have a whole opinion about these people? I resented her deeply for it. I regret it because you can't hate her for that. She never got the opportunity to learn what you have. I got the privilege of learning things that I self-taught. Since she's been a child, she's been working in the fields. Never had the opportunity to sit and read a book to educate, nothing. All she ever has to teach her anything was this racist, biased news program. How could I blame her? She doesn't even know any better. And even if I sat with her today, I don't even think I could help her understand at this point, because she has lived 80 years worth of only understanding this mentality. A lot of people go to their graves thinking this.
As a Latina woman, I will never understand the need to have a proximity to whiteness in the Latino community. First of all, colorism is absolutely rampant no matter where you go with Latinos. You know, I grew up with it. One time when I was little, I came back from Cancun and I had like a tan, and my grandma made me start scrubbing myself so that I could get rid of that tan. On top of that, I've been told by both my grandmas that I need to mejorar la raza. But I was dating my ex, who was very morenito. I got into a really big fight with my aunt because she was like, Kelly, don't you want somebody with colored eyes? Don't you want somebody with lighter skin? What about your kids? Your kids are gonna come out dark. And like, my sister is like 5 shades darker than me. That was one of the biggest fights my aunt and I got into because, you know, my sister, my everything. And if my sister ever at any point begins to feel insecure about her skin color because our family members can't keep their fucking bullshit to themselves. And you know, I've had to have the talk with my sister, who's a lot darker than I am, about the fact that there are going to be people out there that do not like her simply because of her skin color. And it is so difficult to try to explain why that is to a child. Luckily, we live in a Latino community, so it's purely Latinos everywhere, and they're like all the same color as her. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, it makes me sad to have this conversation with her. My grandma always used to tell me to marry or date a white man because they're going to take care of me and make sure that I'm like, you know, set for life. But at the end of the day, like both the kids that married white men, one of them has to deal with racism from extended family members who say that she's only with him because of his money. My other aunt, she's married to a bigot and has become a bigot herself. On top of that, one thing I noticed is that white people have no problem moving far, far away from their families. Like, they will move states over, or maybe even countries over. And, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it is just an observation because a lot of my Latina family members who married white men have picked up everything and left because of their husbands. You know, pushing them to do that, to pick up and basically leave everything behind so that they can, like, start a new life in a different state. And then I hear complaints specifically from these Latina women, like, oh, I miss my family, like, oh, I hate not being around the family, but, you know, he wanted us to move.
Oh yeah, guys, you know, to understand where these obsession with whiteness comes from, we have to go back to the colonial caste system, a system built by the Spanish to rank people by skin color, bloodline, and proximity to Europe. For centuries, lighter skin meant higher status, more opportunities, and safety. Darker skin, especially indigenous identity, meant discrimination, poverty, and exclusion. Yes, and this mindset did not disappear. It simply evolved. Today in modern Mexico, Mexico is a country where most of the population has indigenous ancestry. But turn on a TV, open a magazine, or look at major advertising campaigns, and you'll see a very different Mexico, a whiter Mexico, one that barely reflects the people who actually live there. Whiteness is still marketed as beauty, as power, and success. Darker or indigenous features are still coded as poor, rural, or uneducated. That message doesn't have to be said out loud. It's reinforced every time a white face is chosen to represent the country. And there is internalized colorism, in that this is where things get complicated. When the people most affected by colorism start to internalize it, when darker skinned and predominantly indigenous Mexicans feel pressure to straighten their hair, lighten their skin, deny their native roots, or choose partners with lighter features so their children are seen as better. Some even believe that the closer they look to white, the more respect, safety, and opportunity they will get. And in many cases, they are not wrong. That's how deep the system still runs. In the social media, and let me say today, the conversation is louder than ever. Social media has exposed how colorism operates, not just among the elite, but in everyday jokes, dating preferences, and school systems. Many young Mexicans are now speaking out, reclaiming indigenous identity and rejecting the pressure to whiten themselves. But at the same time, others are doubling down, still chasing a beauty standard that was never created for them, never meant to include them, and never meant to empower them. So why this matters is because this is not just about appearance. Colorism decides who gets hired, who gets stopped by police, who gets treated with respect, and who gets ignored. It determines who is seen as Mexican enough and who is treated like an outsider in their own land. So guys, if we are ever going to break the cycle, we have to say the truth out loud. Whiteness is not the default. Indigenous identity is not something to escape. And Mexican culture is more than a filtered version of Europe. So guys, this video is not about attacking individuals. It's about exposing a system that taught people to hate their own reflection. And the first step to breaking the spell is naming it. So guys, thank you for being with me throughout the video. Thank you. Of course, all credit belongs to the original creators of the video. This video is meant for educational purposes and commentary purposes. Like the video, give this video a thumbs up, share the video widely for it to get to a wider audience, and comment below with your thoughts, especially if you've seen or experienced colorism firsthand. Subscribe for more content on race, identity, and social justice, also in Latin America and beyond.